We're seeing this primarily because it's clusters that create wealth, and the evidence is now loud and clear from around the world that it is strong clusters that create wealth, it's strong clusters that create high quality jobs, it's strong clusters that create export income for a community, it's strong clusters that create new businesses. So clusters are important for any regional economy, but it's important here not to dream about the clusters that we haven't got, but rather to understand what do we already have in our region, in our part of the country, and how do we engage as a team to build those competencies to extend the reach of that cluster. Firstly, it is not inventing a cluster. There need to be strong foundations. It needs to be a key component in a regional economy from day one. Secondly, it helps if there is long-term public support for that clustering initiative. Long-term support, but the initiative ideally is driven by business for business, with public agency support, with support too from academia, from knowledge institutions. Important too that there isn't paralysis by analysis, but rather there is learning by doing across the cluster. Important that there is a high-profile board, a board that is able to bring in additional resources to support the cluster, and it certainly helps if the clustering initiative has got a wide range of funding sources, if it's not over-dependent on one benefactor. The cluster manager is key. In Spain, they call the cluster manager the rare jewel. This is the person who is the born networker, the connector, the linker, the person who's able to bring companies together to form common agendas, the person who's able to link public institutions, academic institutions around the needs of the cluster. It's the person who is able to use the neutral corner to build the competencies of the cluster. I think of this person often as a venture capitalist in the sense of there is a portfolio of initiatives. A venture capitalist too, in the sense of there are multiple options that are being explored, particularly new options being explored that are on the periphery of the cluster, where businesses are exploring new markets, perhaps exploring new technologies. As I look around the world, I see some strong clusters, sometimes in very small places that have been able to develop a global reach. Let me give you two examples of clusters. And both of these clusters are from relatively small communities, and to me they show that even a small community today in a distant part of the world can have a global reach. My first example is a horse cluster in Australia. It's a community of just 4,000 or 5,000 people live in this place about 3 hours drive out of Sydney, a place called Scone. This is where 80% of Australia's racehorses are exported from. My second example of a cluster is northern Norway, right at the other end of the world, a place called Bodo, a population of 40,000, and Bodo arguably is the salmon farming capital of the world. So two examples there of small communities with global reaches.